Hi, I'm Reverend Rich McCain, and I'm here with my baby, my girl, my boo, Author Brenda McCain, and we're the hosts for the Let's Stay Together show.
That's right, baby. We are so grateful to Marcus John for allowing us to be the guest host of Everyone Has a Story. Tonight's topic is Young, Gifted, and Black, Rise Up and Walk. And we have a great panel of guests tonight,
Yes, we do.
starting with Mr. Andre Williams, the lovely Mrs. Leslie Holly, the dapper Mr. Shelton Smith, and the beautiful Mrs. Kelly Fair.
Hey, well, welcome to the show. And so what we're basically trying to do today is we're trying to talk about young, gifted, and black African Americans. There's so many negative things that you hear about people in African American descent on the news. We wanted to show a positive thing. So, Sheldon, I wanted you to tell me just a little bit about what you do and how you're helping with that cause.
Sure, Reverend Rick. I'm Brother Sheldon from Chicago, professional youth mentor. Been mentoring since 1997 for approximately 18 years. Started with Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Chicago, Metropolitan Chicago.
Okay.
Launched my fraternities national initiative program here in Chicago, partnering with some nearby high schools and getting young people on track, keeping them focused, exercising, executing from 4 programmatic components, introducing them to service for humanity, academics, higher education, which leads to a quality life that empowers them.
Where were you at when I needed somebody like that? Because I mean, I'm listening to you and I'm like, what is he talking about? But it's wonderful to see that you're actually working with young men and helping them out. We've got a newbie over here, Kelly, on here. Kelly, tell us a little bit about what you do. Yeah, welcome to the McCain Trade. Tell us a little bit about what you do in helping with young ladies.
Well, thank you guys for having me. So I am the founder and executive director of Polished Pebbles Girls Mentoring Program. And at Polished Pebbles, we focus on girls being great communicators. We want them to be great communicators at home, school, and the future workplace. So in the last 5 years, we've worked with about 1,000 7 through 17-year-old girls through a Saturday program and a mix of after school and during the school day programs. We work with girls in University of Chicago charter schools, Chicago public schools, and several different CHA communities. We figure what better campus to provide them the opportunity to work on their communication skills, but by partnering with local Chicagoland businesses like Bloomingdale's, Nordstrom's, and Blue Cross Blue Shield. Girls go there, get mentored by the employees, and also do job shadowing and hands-on employment projects.
Wow,
Now that's
great.
impressive. What's the age group again?
7 through 17-year-olds.
Okay, then. I'm too old. Okay.
You can come
Just a
mentor.
little, baby.
Just a little.
Hey,
Okay.
Andre, tell us a little bit about what you do as well.
Well, I'm a ordained minister. I own Millennium Service and CEO of Millennium Service Inc. I also own, this consists of 3 different companies that I own, which is a graphic design company, hospitality service, and a cleaning service. And what I do is I open doors for people to step out of their negativity into something positive by basically leading by example, showing the youth of America all over that we can make a difference in our lives.
And we've got one of the young ladies here. I've given you so many titles, Leslie's. I don't even remember what they are by now. We're on our show. We have our radio internet show. But tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. I'm a licensed clinical professional counselor, and I practice at an agency called Urban Balance, where we have over 6 office locations, roughly 60 psychotherapists. I work out of the Chicago and Ravenswood locations. I work with clients that are suffering from depression and anxiety. I also work with adolescents. I see a lot of African American families and guardians, and also work with their African American youth and just helping them set long-term, short-term goals and provide resources.
Amen. Hey, baby, you got some questions over there for our guests, so let's get to those questions.
Okay, well, we're going to lead with, which someone has just said, what are you doing to empower our youth to become successful in society? Now, I know, Kelly, you hit on it, but you could hit on it again. You could
Well,
break
we
that
figure
down.
with a focus on communication skills, communication is in every area of life. So a lot of times we think of it and we tell girls, you know, hey, being able to introduce yourself to someone new for the first time is a new important communication skill. But for a lot of our girls, it's the basic stuff like you woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Your mom got on your nerves this morning. But it doesn't give you permission to go to school and cuss out your teacher or your principal because you feel like it. It doesn't give you permission to do that also because you're facing high levels of trauma in your community and in your home. So we try and equip them with the communication skills to find better ways to express what's going on and kind of deal with that issue first, and then, you know, have more healthy interactions with peers and adults as well.
So Kelly, I'm gonna be, you know, most of the time we're on the show, I'm like the devil's advocate. So
That's
I'm gonna
all right.
sit there. I don't, you know, this is a great program for
Yeah.
me, but as a young lady, I don't see how it fits for me. How can that help me to get to a point where I see the fit for me, even though I don't see who I am at this point?
So the selling point that we have for all of our girls is young to 7 up to 17, and we have a lot of students that we work with that are truant. So they are not coming to school, period.
Oh, okay.
So the selling point is we say, who wants to work? And in America, we all kind of want to be successful, and we've all bought into the idea that some level of employment or business is what is going to make you the money. Kids get that too. And so when we kind of flip it and say, look, if you want to work and you want an after school job, you want a summer job, you want to eventually get there, communication skills are your way to success. And so it kind of helps them get the buy-in, and we're preparing them for their first day of work. Back in the 80s, they used to have take your daughters to work day. That stopped. And the reality is a lot of our girls don't necessarily have a parent that is capable of taking them to work to kind of see and expose them to careers. So that whole getting ready for work thing for a lot of our kids, even if they're 7 or the girls that don't come to school, that's that buying-in point that says, all right, let me give this communication thing a try.
Yeah. So Sheldon, you know, for young men who are out there that are trying to seek a better life, but society is basically always showing them a negative light, how do you help them see a positive side of who they are?
Branding and imaging. I think that everyone has to first come to understand that they are a brand. When you go out and you buy Sean John, when you buy Versace, when you buy Gucci, you're buying somebody's brand. It's a brand name. That's someone's name. Your name is a brand, and you make that work for you. Through academic achievement and scholastic achievement and those accomplishments, our young people are setting themselves up for success. Everybody doesn't learn the same in an educational and an academic environment, but everybody will have a brand.
Right.
Whether you go to a four-year university such as Morehouse, such as Yale, such as Harvard, or whether you go to a vocational school and take up a trade, there's something out there for you. And once you are receptive to going out and you're courageous enough to go out and conquer what's in store for you, then your brand becomes that image that you want to be recognized for. It's just like, you know, a lot of African Americans, males predominantly, are profiled. If they wear a hoodie, if they have sagging pants on, if they have Timberlands on, these young guys are profiled. If they wear white tees, if they wear wife beaters. Just because you see a young boy or a young man of color, it doesn't mean that he's a threat to society. That could just be his down day. I can go to work. I work in a white-collar environment, and I go to work every day. I work with stockbrokers on a day-to-day basis. And so I have seen some of the wealthiest come across my feet. But when I'm at home, if I'm in the Roseland community in which I grew up, if I have on a Bears baseball cap, a Bulls throwback, and I'm outside in my Rockaway jeans and my boots, I'm just casual. And that's okay.
Yeah.
It's not for you to say what's going on with the inner me.
But that happens a lot of times because of what happens is with that branding, there's a positive branding, there's a negative branding. So I'm going to switch it over to Leslie. What happens when we have such of a negative branding about who we are, and even though we're trying to walk positive, we get so many things against negative about us? How do we reverse that switch or that thought process of people because of what they see already, the vision of who we are, and they don't know who we are?
Yeah, I think it's important to note that we've got some, I mean, you guys have some lovely guests here talking about all the things that they're doing, contributing and helping the youth. It's important to note it only takes one person. Research shows it only takes one person to work with a child, to take that time to mentor a child, to influence that child, to create change for that person, for that child. It only takes one person.
Yeah, and I like that. It only takes one person. And I guess for most of the people out there that are listening, that you're there to understand that you don't need a village. that one individual can make a big
A
difference
huge
in
difference.
someone's life.
But what about the girl that's not in school? The girl that we see on the streets and we know she's not in school, and her branding does look kind of suspect.
Well, I think for that young lady that is not finding herself because of experience, because of her self-esteem, because of whatever it is, I think that once she is embraced by love, once someone takes an authentic interest in her, then she will come to learn what her qualities are. She'll learn that she too is pregnant with possibility. I call that being pregnant with possibility.
that.
And a lot of people are afraid to birth their potential.
Yeah.
It's lying within. And that one person that Leslie was just speaking about, it has to be willing to work with that person and pull it out. Now, it may not come out tomorrow, but you're going to have to grind with them. You're going to have to get in the trenches with them. You know, when she's at her ugliest, when she's at her worst, you know, when she's abusive to herself,
Yeah.
then you're going to have to be that resource for her. You're going to have to intercede for her. You're going to have to pray for her. And you're going to have to help her get to the next level.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to come right back with Andre is going to be talking about some things. But, baby, what's the commercial we're going to?
We're going into the lovely Nina Simone Young, Gifted, and Black song, so enjoy the beautiful lyrics and learn a thing or two.
We'll be right back after these breaks.
In the whole lovely precious dream.
Hey, I love that song. I remember when I was younger, we had to learn that in grammar school, and you had to know all the words, which was frightening.
Rick,
because
you know
back
the
then I
lyrics.
couldn't sing. I don't know the lyrics anymore now. But at
Give
that
me your
then,
best
I could-
John Legend
I
right
could-
now.
John Legend. I got to think of a John Legend song.
Just sing, baby,
You know,
just
but
sing.
this is not my audition time, so right now. But we're going to go back to Kelly, because you were saying something about what Sheldon has said. So add on to that.
Yeah, I thought Sheldon was making a great point about there's young women out here and we look at the exterior. But he makes a great point that she is pregnant with possibilities. But we're looking at the exterior for a variety of reasons. And we've created within our community also biases.
Yeah.
So we look at her and say, look at that girl, look how she dressed. Oh, she got a nasty attitude. We get caught up with so much of what we're seeing on TV and the media and the representation of young black girls and young black women. So I think we have to really, when we're talking about our young people, is have a real conversation about what kind of barriers and masks and kind of perceptions and judgments do we need to peel off as the adults in
That's
our
good.
community.
Yeah, that's true.
So, you know, I can't keep looking at her as this negative thing and then talk about what she should be doing. So it's an opportunity where we really have to talk about recruitment of African American adults as mentors in our community, whether it be in organized programs, whether it be encouraging them to do it individually. But regardless, whatever the recruitment has to involve training.
Yeah.
Because there's different sectors and people in our community who still live in Roseland, like I do, and then those who don't. And so they don't know why she's doing what she's doing,
Yeah.
why she's wearing what she's wearing, why she's saying. And so we have to make sure that we're educating folks. so
Which
we
is
can
basically
really do
almost
it.
like an interpersonal profiling each other. We're already looking at the individual saying something negative because of what we perceive before we even get a chance to have the person speak to us and find out who they are.
Absolutely.
That's true. Baby, you got someone to say?
Yeah, like you said, we are perceiving so many things on people. Like, I'm a product of Roseland as well, and great fruit come out of Roseland and Inglewood, but we do
Ditto.
tagline. Hey, we know it comes out of the area, but we tagline it because it's, oh, that's Inglewood, or that's Phoenix, or that's Roseland, nothing good come out of that. Well, we're a product of those areas, those communities, and we have people who actually worked with us. And you shocked me, because I do remember back in the 80s, it was parents taking their children to school. I didn't know that stopped. And that's kind of sad, because a lot of things that stopped with the educational program messed up so many things for our youth. And that leads me up to my next question. How can that change a little bit? Because, I mean, they cut out so many things. I'm not downing the system, but we don't have the Sheldon out there to help the young men over here and the young ladies. We don't have Kelly. We don't have Andre with his backstory to go, you know, every day and help young people. What can we do in the education system or suggest to them? that you need to beef this up. We need to bring this back into the curriculum?
You know, I think there is a huge divide, unfortunately, between the school system and the communities oftentimes, and that we need to bridge that, you know, we need to help bring those communities together, bring the school system and the community at large together. Parents, the communities, they have to get involved in the schools.
Yeah.
They have to push for change. They have to join the local school council. They have to go to parent-teacher conferences. They have to find out what programs are in their communities. They have to come together and harness their resources. We have to do that as a community. And I think, unfortunately, you know, there's some great schools in Chicago. There's some horrible schools in Chicago. I think it's really up to us as a community to come together and really push for some change and use our resources that we already have and come together and help each other.
Kelly, you want to
I
add
think
something?
one of the things that's important too when we talk about our communities, we're talking about the youth and then we talk about the things that parents need to be doing. I think now from my time and my experience, parents need training. That we're talking about a generation of young people who have
Yeah.
not been loved and nurtured properly, but that's because their parents have not been loved and nurtured properly. So we're expecting something from a generation of parents who, quite frankly, really don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
So I think the advocacy definitely has to come from the parents in the community, learning how to advocate, but somebody got to teach them. So one of the things I think is important in the African American community is you grew up in Roseland, you went to school in the hundreds, don't forget that. Just because you moved out does not mean that that is no longer a part of your community.
Yeah.
When I do calls and I ask for guest speakers sometimes, and we put some of the programs up in schools that they can go to, I can't get somebody to come to the far southeast side.
Yeah.
You know, so one time on Facebook I said, wait a minute, you grew up in the hundreds. Did you forget that?
Yeah.
We sat in school next to each other. That's the same community that molded and made you. So you have a responsibility to go back and mold and make those kids.
Well, what happens a lot of times is that we want to get away from a society of what we think is corrupt, of negative. So once we get away from it, we just want to leave ourselves. It's almost like the crab in the barrel. We don't want to bring anybody out. We just want to get out. And a lot of times when we get out of a situation, we don't want to go back into it. I was going to say something. Whatever happened to PTA? I don't know if most of y'all
Right, I
remember
was
what
going to
that
bring
was.
that up. There was always
know.
the PTA, the PTO, and I think also to kind of speak to what Kelly is saying, I don't know that the importance of family structure is there. Because when we were growing up in our generation, our parents were very much aware of everything we did.
Everything.
From school to where you were in the
Right.
neighborhood, what you were involved in the community, day camp, all of it. And
You
now
had to be back when those lights came on
exactly,
off.
man. and so I think now there are, you know, parents that, you know, unfortunately parenting doesn't come with instructions.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say they're doing as best they can. But I think that there's a generation, if we speak truth to power, that came from an era where there was a high rate of drug existence and implementation primarily into minority communities.
Yeah.
Not only communities of color, because I'm not going to sit on a panel and say that all black people are led down this path of destruction. But there was a time where we're now looking at a generation that evolved from that. And so when you have the mother is 40, or the grandmother, the grandmother's much younger now, then the mama and the grandmama are still trying to get out on Saturday night.
Good point. I have to stop you right there. Tell a quick scenario. Walgreens the other day, young girl, about 15 years old, beautiful young girl. I had seen a little brother with her. I thought was her little brother. I said, "Oh, this little boy is so cute. This your little brother?" And she said, "No, it's my son." And I'm thinking, he's how old? And when she told me, I'm doing the math like, you had this baby at 13.
Right, so
So you
grandparents-
13, your mother probably not
Exactly.
even 30.
So grandparents are not that much older than the child's parent. And so they're still at the same place in their lives.
Yeah.
So they're basically living the same lives. We've all heard that the man dated the mama, now he dating the daughter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we have, because you're not that far in age. And so you're running in the same path. You're
Yeah.
likely your paths are going to cross at some
Yes.
point. And so we don't have those fundamental things that we can say that we took for granted as far as the homework, as far as young people being validated and confirmed in their home. And then it doesn't matter what society thinks
Yeah.
of you. And then I have a question. We talk about looking at the exterior, like Kelly said. Are we as guilty as the white police officer that profiled the young man? Because we're looking at an exterior,
Yeah,
and we're
yeah.
making a judgment.
We definitely are just about as guilty. We don't want to admit that we're about that
Oh,
guilty,
no.
but we are, because we are just as, racial to each other or profiling each other as anyone else. But I want to go back. Andre, we're going to have you. Andre has a story that I want him to tell, so I'm going to have Andre tell it. But I want to go to Leslie for a second. We were just talking about some of our kids are having kids at young age, and then the grandmama might be 30 and the grandmama is 45. That didn't happen back in my day in the 60s or the 70s. I'm trying to figure out what happened where all of a sudden now the stereotypical mother fear or father fear there that used to scare you from even doing anything. What changed now where that doesn't seem to be a concern anymore? Kids are having kids at younger ages. Back then, you were afraid to even think about having a child. But now it's like it's just commonplace. Kids are having kids at an earlier age, early and earlier.
Well, I definitely think, to your point, some of the things that we were talking about systems being put into place, that has really, I think, pulled our communities apart, the drugs. But, teenage pregnancy as well is very prevalent. And I think what we're talking about is lack of resources. And when we continue this cycle, we kind of cut ourselves off for higher education, to gain more resources, to then be able to help our communities. And then when we do get out of the community, like you were saying, we leave. Once we graduate and maybe we've made it out, we don't come back, and we don't take the resources that we've gotten and bring them back to our communities.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, something that we really need to address, this issue with teenage pregnancy, this issue with, fathers not being in the home, no co-parenting. Many children are grown up today without any kind of father figures in the home, and then once they have children of their own, they don't really understand, what a healthy family dynamic looks
There's no
like.
value
I'm
to
going to have
pass
to stop you
on.
for a second because we're going to have to go to a commercial break on a second. So I need to go to Andre when we come back. Hey, I hope you're enjoying the show. Everyone has a story. This is the Let's Stay Together show. We'll be right back after these breaks. Welcome back to Everyone Has a Story. We're the hosts of the Let's Stay Together show. One of our guests, Kelly Flair, had to leave us for a short while, so we're going to go on with Andre. So, Andre, I want to ask you this question. Tell us a little bit about your story and how you came from an individual who may have been considered negative to now such a positive light.
Well, it used to be a time when a lot of people looked up to me in the wrong way because of the things I was doing. I used to be heavily hooked up. I sold a lot of drugs. I ended up going to prison. They gave me 60 years, but God said no. So
Amen.
in the process of me being in prison, I sat down and educated myself. One thing I did, I said, if this is the fruit of my labor, I don't want this. And I walked away from, I had a restaurant, 2 beauty shop, barber shop, but it all came from illegal means. So people look at me in a different way. So today what I do, well, let me back up. When I was sat down, I read the Bible 16 times because I said,
Amen.
if this the fruit of my labor, I don't want that kind of money.
Right.
It's some better than this when you allow another human being to dictate your pace, right? So I gave 60 years back, and God allowed me to come home. And the same principles that I applied to myself being incarcerated in these maximum facility prisons, I use the same motivation today, instilling these values into youth, the people that's lost, misled, confused, the people that generally are thrown away,
Right.
that society dictates, well, you're going to be nothing and all this stuff. When we are something, we have a chance. So I take young brothers and sisters and I lead by example. And I show them these things so people see the things, how I'm being blessed today, and they be like, how do you do that? And so what I do, I just do interaction with people from all over the country.
Yeah, and you know, it's a wonderful story that you have. We're going to share a little bit more about it a little later, and how your lifestyle and how you gave everything up for Jesus Christ and to be able to do things. And one of the things about the Let's Stay Together show, it's to know our glory. You have to know our backstory, and so you have a great backstory that we're going to share on the second half. Hey Tracy, I think we've got some questions for our audience.
Yes, and we're real blessed to have so many young people
Yes,
here
we
today.
are.
So we have our question here. You want to stand up and tell us who you are?
My name is Jordan, and I have a question from Mrs. Shelton. I want to know, in your younger years, what made you want to dedicate your life to helping youth and making them better?
That's a great question, Jordan. Thank you for that. When I was a teenager growing up, I wasn't introduced to programs through structured organizations. And one day, God laid it on my heart when I was in my early 30s. God laid it on my heart to give back. I had no biological children, and I was always drawn to youth. I always loved my nephews. I always loved the kids in my community. And so I sought out opportunities in which I could give. I found Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Metropolitan Chicago. I found out through them, through that system, that there was a young man in my neighborhood that without that system, I would never have known existed. That young man and I became to bond. He was like a son to me. And he grew up, he was 11 years old when we came to meet, struggling through school. He grew up, went away to Prairie View A&M. He seemed to follow my footsteps, just like a son would follow his father's. I became a very active member, and I'm a deacon, proud deacon of Trinity United Church of Christ. He became a member of Trinity United Church of Christ. I was in the men's drill team. He was in the youth drill team. I became a man of Phi Beta Sigma. He became a young man of Phi Beta Sigma. So I'm proud to say that all that God laid on me was from God, gifted by God, so it is all of God.
You got another questions from the audience?
Yes, I think we have one last question.
Hi, my name is Quentin Thompson, and my question is for Leslie. Did you have a lot of trials and tribulations getting to where you are at this point in your life?
I think that's a great question. You know, I'm a product of an environment where, you know, I grew up with a mom and a dad in the home. I'm definitely not self-made. I definitely give my parents all the credit for where I am today. I didn't want to go to college. I wanted to hang out.
Yeah.
But I had expectations put on me. And those expectations were that I was going to go to college, that I was going to get, you know, decent enough grades to go to college, that I was going to have a job. I had a job from 15 on. So I had expectations put on me, and a lot of discipline put in me, a lot of resources poured into me. And so, you know, I can definitely speak to the benefits of that, that it's important that, you know, we put expectations on our kids. It's important that we realize that someone did help us. Everybody doesn't have that, but all it takes is one person, like you were talking about. So that's my story.
Hey, we thank you very much. We thank you all for being the guests on there. We had our judge who wasn't able to make it here because he got, you know, called away. And so we appreciate that. Hey, we hope you've enjoyed Everyone Has a Story. This is the Let's Stay Together show. I'm your host, Reverend Rick McCain, along with my baby, my girl, my boo, Arthur Brenda McCain. We'll be seeing you real soon. Thank you for listening to Everyone Has a Story.